part. It's okay. It's good to know that. All right. So first thing, we're going to start on we're going to be doing some masking techniques, and we're going to do some photo retouching. So I'm going to do a little bit of both this week, and we'll do a little bit of both next week too. So this is some ideas about some photo retouching. And the first thing is, when you see an image, right, you want to see where it comes from. You want to see the resolution. You want to see the bit depth. You want to see the color mode. So I'm going to go up to image. I'm going to go to mode. You'll see it's an RGB color. So that's okay. It depends on whether I'm going to print the image or if I'm going to use it for web. I'm going to go to image size. You'll see that this image is 810 by 1033. So it's actually really small. So it actually would not be printable. Okay. So we'll get into that later. So now the next thing is looking at the image and doing a kind of a review of what's going on with this image. And you can see that there's a number of different types of tears and stuff going on with the image. So I want to start learning how to fix this image. The first thing I want to do is take out that weird orange tinge that's over the image, right? And what I want to do is I want to desaturate the image. I want to keep it in its original color space of RGB, but I want to take out that orange tinge. So I'm going to go to image, I'm going to go to adjustments, right? So if I go to mode, I could go to grayscale, I could turn it into a grayscale image. But I would be changing its color mode. I want to keep it, undo that. I'm going to keep it in RGB mode. So I'm going to go to image and I'm going to go to adjustments. And there's two ways I can do this. I can use the hue saturation slider, and I can take the saturation and drag it all the way to the left, and you'll see that I've now made this image black and white. I've taken an orange tinge off, and that's a valid way to fix that image as far as this orange tinge is concerned. Or I can go to image and go to adjustments, and I can go down and use the command desaturate. It's going to end up doing the same thing, right? So I've desaturated, I've gotten rid of that orange tinge. Okay, everybody with me so far? Okay. Now the next thing is the redistribution of the lights, midtones, and darks inside this image. So what we'll do tomorrow night is we're going to do a deep dive on image adjustments, okay? And image adjustments allow me to adjust the lights, the midtones, the darks in the image, and manipulate and control the color. And I can either use that to replace color, supplant color, or fix colors, right? And so now the image adjustments can be found in two different places. So let me show you how to use the image adjustments and show you the difference between using the image adjustments from the image adjustments palette up here and using them from adjustments over here on the right or on the palette here, right? So let's go up to image and let's go to adjustments. And I want to show you, the first adjustment I want to show you is a level adjustment, okay? So what are levels? Levels are the lights, midtones, and darks inside of a given image. Okay, let's see if does anybody need help? Okay, so when I'm looking here at this image, let me just see if I can turn on my zoom it real quick. Just a sec. Okay. When I'm looking at this image and I bring up that level adjustment, image adjustments, levels, what I'm looking at is the lights, midtones, and darks inside this image, okay? And this little box right here in the center is called a histogram, right? And a histogram is a mathematical readout of what's happening inside your document. So you already see what's going on with the document. What this does is it gives me a mathematical readout of what's happening with this document, right? And so there's lots of different ways to use this this particular tool. And I'm going to show you 4 or 5 different ways over the course of the semester. So one is that I can grab these little sliders down here and slide them. This is the dark. So if I grab that, you'll see I'm darkening the darker parts of the image. These are the lights. So you can see I can lighten certain parts of the image, and these are the midtones, right? And what I want to do is I want to reintroduce a certain amount of tonality back into the image. So I'm going to brighten the midtones, and I want to pinch in the lights just a little bit, about like that. That looks much better, right? So that's my image adjustment. This is a levels adjustment, and I'm trying to correct the overall tonality of this image. So first I desaturated and I took out that crazy messy tinge of orange, and I can colorize the image later if I want. And now I'm re-establishing the value of the image using levels. And there's other ways to do this as well, but this is a good place to start. And I'm going to click OK. Now that worked perfectly fine. The problem with doing that adjustment that way is that it is nailed onto the artwork. And if I wanted to go back and change it, I couldn't, right? I would be stuck with that adjustment the way it's been made. I'm going to undo that, edit, undo. So I'm going to do the exact same adjustment, but I'm going to do it from the palette. Now, in this case, I could either do it from the layers palette, or I could do it from the menu over here. And when I use the same tool from either of these places, I'll make the same adjustment. You'll see that what's happened is that it is part of the layers palette. It is a layer. See that layer element right there? And so that's really important because I can turn that edit on and off. I can go back into it and continue editing. It's not nailed onto the artwork. The other way, your image adjustment is nailed onto the artwork. And I don't want that to be nailed onto the artwork. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Okay. So let's work with our image here. And the first thing I want to do, let's go into the background image, and we're going to look at the clone stamp, the pattern stamp. We're going to work with the healing brush, the spot healing, the patch, and then tomorrow we'll go over constant aware and move and red eye, and then what we'll do is we'll continue from there. So let's go down. Let's start with the clone stamp tool. So here, make sure that you click down in the image pixels here. And then later on, we're going to come back and work with more adjustments here. So the idea is that anytime I'm using an adjustment, try to either grab it from over here or from here. Because when I use them from here, they're nailed into the artwork. Here, it hovers as a layer above the artwork. So I want to make sure I'm in the image pixels down here. And I'm going to grab the clone stamp tool. So the way the clone stamp tool works is that it picks up pixels and moves them from one place wholesale. So anytime I want to pick something up and just move it somewhere else, either to obfuscate or to replicate, I can set it like so. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to get used to changing the size of your brush with the left and right square bracket keys. So if I tap the right square bracket key, my brush gets bigger. If I tap the left square bracket key, my brush gets smaller. So I'm going to make the brush about so. And the way that you work with your clone stamp tool, so like wherever I put this, it's going to be in a way. The way I work with the clone stamp tool is you have source and destination. You have source and destination. So you set a source point and then you set a destination point, right? So with my clone stamp tool, I'm going to come over and I'm going to clone his eye. So I come over to the eye, I hold down the Alt key, and you'll see it turns into a set of crosshairs, and then I click. So what I've done is and you can see there's a little eyeball inside of there. That's animated, right? It's kind of like it's holding that. So what I'm done here is I've picked up that element. If I go over anywhere else to start to paint, it's going to pick that up and paint it back down on the screen. All right. I'm going to undo that. So that's the idea with the clone stamp tool. I go to a place on the screen, I hold down the Alt key and left click, and then when I go to another place and start to paint, it's going to pick up from the crosshairs and paint it into the brush. So I'm picking up from the crosshairs. So you have to look at the crosshairs, you have to look at the brush too, right? So that's how I use my clone stamp tool, okay? So anytime I want to pick up pixels wholesale, I will use that clone stamp tool. So I can even clone stamp from one document into another. So if I'm gonna make the brush kind of big here and hit the Alt key, and I've set a source point, and if I create a new document, file new, and let's use the document dimensions that are already here, and I'm going to start to paint, and you'll see that I can actually paint from one document into another using the clone stamp tool. Okay, so that's a good way to test the clone stamp process. All right. Now back to our document. So now there's two modes for running your clone stamp tool. One is aligned. So aligned means, let me see if I can demonstrate it. It's what it's set to. When I clone stamp, I alt click and I start to paint, the crosshairs and the brush stay in alignment to one another. As I move and I let go with the brush, no matter where I click and let go, the crosshairs and the brush stand in alignment. I'm going to undo that. Oops, let's step forward one. Now, when I am unaligned, it always goes back to the original point. So if I alt click again and start to paint, then let go, it's going to start painting from the same place as opposed to staying aligned. So when is it better to use it aligned and when is it better to use it unaligned? It really depends on what you're trying to do. Okay, so that's, for a long time, that was the only tool you had for photo retouching. That was it. If you couldn't get it done. The Banker, good movie. I've never seen it. Okay. If you couldn't get it done with the clone stamp tool, you couldn't get it done.